What's up, everyone? MK Tom Brady here, and it's finally time. Injustice 3 is coming, and finally we have some real information as opposed to the normal rumors that we have to break down all the time. Of all things, yesterday, July 19th, 2021, you can see that here, last recorded update, Injustice 2, an NRS game that was released in 2017, received an update of 15 gigs. Now, if you guys are familiar with NRS games, you know this is impossible as they don't go back to previous titles and update them. If you're not familiar with it, then, as I just said, they don't go back in previous titles and update them. So this is what? Injustice 2 received an update of 15 gigs, and in this update, 3 files were added labeled Upsell. So you guys remember when Mortal Kombat 11 got announced and you had these ads started popping up in Mortal Kombat X that says, hey, guess what, guys? Mortal Kombat 11 got announced. You might want to buy it. These would be considered upsells. So these are probably added to the game, much like how those ads in MKX had to be patched in. When they officially announce Injustice 3, you're going to probably get some ads that pop up in Injustice 2 that says, hey, did you hear we announced Injustice 3? You might want to buy it. And there's an article written about this, basically pointing to, hey, this could mean Injustice 3. I want to pick this up in the middle here where it says, as a whole, this new Injustice 2 update doesn't do a whole lot to the game. Even though it's around 15 gigs in total, this patch mainly just tweaks the number of features that were already available. And there are other articles written that say these are just, again, as this says, tweaks to certain gameplay features in the game, game modes, etc. Nothing really big, just some tweaks. And there's some speculation that maybe this is they're doing some testing to a couple of game modes in Injustice 2 that they might want to include in Injustice 3. This article goes on to say, however, as seen in the patch notes on SteamDB, 3 all-new files were added, some of which might tease Injustice 3. These new file types that have been added to Injustice 2 are labeled as Upsell in the game's patch history, which seems to indicate that NetherRealm is preparing to add in-game ads of some sort to the title. While it might be hard to see how this involves Injustice 3, oftentimes when developers are preparing to release new games, they'll advertise those new products within the confines of their previous titles. Assuming that this is a practice that NRS might be looking into doing for itself, which, by the way, they've already done with MKX, advertising MK11, it clearly seems that though this is the beginning stages of these in-game ads within Injustice 2, which could point to the new project, which is going to be Injustice 3. Now, of course, this completely destroys the notion that it's a Marvel game because they're not going to announce a Marvel game within Injustice. They're not going to announce Marvel in a DC game on top of that. DC would probably say, hell no. It's just not going to happen. So this pretty much debunks that Marvel theory once and for all. And I've already debunked it before. It just comes from one guy on his Patreon. That's where all this came from. So, okay, so let's look at the... Okay, yeah, we know this is Injustice 3. I expect it to be announced sometime in the next 60 to 90 days. Injustice 3, probably get beta, January or February. And game to be released next spring, April, May, June type of time frame. Now, for those who were saying, Tom, what if this is nothing and it doesn't mean Injustice 3 and we're still waiting for, maybe late 2022, early 2023 for, whatever that next supposed Marvel title is or whatever game it's going to be? Well, then this would be a massive error by NetherRealm here because keep in mind, this is the company who just said, we're done with all Mortal Kombat 11 support, our recent game. And if for anyone that asked, okay, new content, but what about tweaks to things like in-game modes or something like that, towers, anything, any type of game mode in the game, then you got a producer going, hey, maybe you didn't hear, and he had to apologize for being curt about this, responding to people, no game modes, no nothing. There are no plans for any MK11 patches, no new content, no game modes being tweaked, nothing, zero, nada. Now, how would that look? That in your newest title, you were saying you're getting nothing, not even to the smallest of small game modes are we going to tweak. But then you go ahead and update Injustice 2 with a 15 gig patch tweaking game modes while you refuse to do so in MK11. Now, if this has something to do with testing things for Injustice 3, testing some game modes out, and upselling for Injustice 3, we understand. But if it's not, it's like, why would you tweak some game modes for Injustice 2 and basically say, hey, you MK11 guys that are looking for at least some of that, bad news. So it would make them look extremely bad to do something like this, which says this 100% is Injustice 3, because no company would make such a bonehead move. And I know some of you are going to make some NRS wisecracks here. No, not even NRS would do that. While obviously they have been, especially if you look at some of Ed Boon's tweets, they don't have the best grasp on the pulse of the situation. Not even they would do something like this. So this, in my opinion, is 100% Injustice 3. Get ready, boys! Coming soon, Injustice 3. I will be here to cover all news as we get more updates and more clues on this type of stuff. But I think it's almost impossible that it's not Injustice 3 at some point. And, or at least some type of DC game, right? I mean, something along those lines. Nothing with a Marvel title, though. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'm going to stay on top of this for you guys. Stay tuned for more content.